know you're building a tool for financial advisors, so that's probably a good place to start. Is to let you give kind of the quick intro to bQuest.
Yeah, absolutely. So bQuest is exactly what you said. I mean, we're the first care coordination solution purposefully built for the financial services industry. And it's something where, there are a lot of care coordination tools out there. Many of them are direct to consumer. There are some that are purposefully built for the employee benefits space or healthcare. But we essentially decided to align ourselves with the financial services industry. For people that are in the industry, they get it. They say, "Oh my gosh, that's actually brilliant." For those that aren't, are kind of like, "That's an interesting decision. Tell me more." And I will tell you that it wasn't our intention when we started out 3 years ago. So when we started out 3 years ago, we really thought we were building something for direct consumer families that are trying to navigate this, because Kelly, my co-founder, and I both come from the family caregiver lens. So we don't come from the wealth management space ourselves. And so we really wanted to provide a solution for families directly that are navigating what we call the universal human experience. And that is really, when we think about this journey of life and loss, we really think about it starting with aging in place, since the majority of Americans want to stay in their homes as long as possible. We also know that it ends up being about 30% or less that are able to achieve that goal. And so they look at senior living options, senior living communities, potentially downsizing into a smaller home, etc. Moving on down the path, hopefully much later, often there's end-of-life planning and end-of-life care that's needed. Eventually there's a death in the family. And then after loss, which includes estate administration and certainly grief. And so we always saw financial advisors as an important aspect of the journey. Many of these decisions to work with professional service providers can be costly. They can, be private pay. Sometimes there's insurance that comes in to help with that. But oftentimes, if a financial advisor can help a family navigate those decisions and analyze those costs, it's really helpful. And so we had been having 2 years of conversations with financial advisors when we kept hearing the same exact thing. My clients are coming to me. They're asking me questions about aging and end-of-life care, questions that I don't have answers to. And they're also asking for referrals to professional service providers that I frankly don't have a network for. And so what ends up happening are these advisors spend a lot of time that they oftentimes don't have, researching service providers so that they can make a trusted referral to their client. However, oftentimes it's not a great referral because they don't know how to properly vet them. So it's for all of these reasons that we said, okay, let's take our ecosystem that we've started building, let's take our 4-step vetting process and our digital platform, and let's really build a program that brings a lot of value, not only to the family caregiver, that is the client, but also to the advisor supporting them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely interesting for me because I've talked to several different founders in the FamTech space, and for a lot of people, they kind of learn quickly like FamTech is not just parenting and family and kids and the early stages of family life, but also for the later stages of retirement and end of care planning and elder care and like you said, sort of everything first breath to last breath and even beyond. And a lot of the folks I've talked to in age tech and elder care have kind of, like you said, been creating some tools that are sort of direct to consumer or employee kind of benefit space. So it's very interesting for me to like kind of unpack and learn how you guys navigated that sort of selling into financial advisors. But sort of before we get to all that, I want to go way back in your story, if that's okay, because I do also sort of selfishly, I'm just very interested in founders and how they sort of navigated the early parts of their career, kind of what led them to starting the company, what they kind of learned and took away from different parts of their professional career. So kind of going way back. First of all, I think I saw in your your background, I believe you went to Illinois State. Is that right?
Redbirds, yep, that's correct.
Yeah, Redbirds. Okay, same here. So I think when I reached out, I didn't notice that till right afterwards, because I mean Illinois State's a big school. A lot of people go there, but for some reason I don't. I just don't bump into a lot of people, in the wild who went to ISU. So it's always nice to see someone else who went to ISU. How I just have to ask how did you like your time at ISU? What'd you study? How did you sort of go from ISU kind of off into your career?
Yeah, no, I loved it. So I grew up downstate Illinois. For those that live in Chicago or know Chicago, it's the other part of Illinois that's not Chicago. So
Yeah.
a lot of cornfields, etc. So I grew up in a really small town in Illinois and decided to stay in state and toured Illinois State and really loved it. Had a great time there. Studied hard. Also had a little bit of fun. I ended up playing rugby, club rugby at Illinois State, which is oftentimes people find pretty interesting. But found a great group of friends through that sport and studied business, specifically marketing. And so had a great experience. Decided to actually move up to Chicago after graduating. Working for Kellogg's, food away from home, and that's specific because I grew up in a family business. My grandparents started our family business in 1960, and we still own and operate the business today, and it's grown pretty significantly since 1960. My dad was the first of his generation to come back and work in the business and spent over 40 years working in the business. And so that was very impactful on my life. I grew up around it, again, in a small town, but really grew up working at the business from an early age. And our business is really in supply chain management, partnering with many of the leading consumer packaged good brands. And that's what led me to Kellogg's. Essentially, we had a relationship with Kellogg's and interviewed with them and decided to move up to Chicago and work there. I only spent a short time with them and then decided that I kind of wanted to move west, moved out to Colorado and started working for the national governing body of rugby in the United States, which was my first kind of stint with entrepreneurship, if you will. Even though as a national governing body, we were very small, had a very small team, and were very scrappy. So it was like, okay, thrown into the fire, figure out how to go and manage this aspect of the business, which for me was managing our domestic championships. Did that for a couple of years, decided to go back to school and get my MBA, which I did. And then once I finished that, I decided to come back to the family business. And that's really where I spent the next over 13 years of my career working in sales and business development roles. So really impactful on me, loved working for the business. I was the first of my generation to come back. I'm one of 47. So we're a very large family.
Wow.
And so it means a lot to be part of our family legacy. But I got to a point after 13 years where I said, this has been a great experience. I've learned a lot, but I want to go make my own mark on this world. I want to do something truly impactful that can positively impact millions of people in this country. And that's essentially what led me to co-founding bQuest with my business partner.
And how did you meet your co-founder? Was this through professional connections or one of your different positions you've had?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a funny story. So I had a short stint with a small boutique private equity fund between leaving my family business to starting bQuest. And it was impactful because that's how I met Kelly, my business partner. I was an operating partner, kind of overseeing our consumer packaged good investments. And we needed somebody to step in as an interim CEO of a goat cheese creamery. Never have run a manufacturing business, let alone knew anything about making artisanal goat cheese, but said, this sounds like a challenge. It sounds interesting. So let's go. And the objective was to grow it pretty significantly, as private equity does. And so I said, okay, well, we have zero sales or marketing resources today. So we need to invest somewhere, but we couldn't bring on someone full time. So we decided to bring on Kelly as a marketing consultant. And she ended up getting pretty deep in the weeds with me because, again, it was just the two of us trying to grow this business. And it was a fantastic brand. So we were getting tons of opportunities with the Whole Foods and the Safeways of the world, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked, hand in hand for quite a while, growing that business. At one point, the private equity fund decided that they couldn't continue to fund the business based upon what the capital needs were. Manufacturing is high capital, and growing at the rate we wanted to grow is significant. So essentially, Kelly and I stepped away. And then in that kind of in-between time where we both were trying to figure out, what's our next chapter, I went to her with this idea that was ultimately bQuest and said, hey, I think that this is a major effort. What we're trying to do is significant. However, we could have a lot of positive impact here. Do you want to do this with me? And she thought for about 5 seconds, and then she said, yeah, let's go do this.
It probably helps too that you've already had that great working relationship and probably knew each other pretty well of how you work together. One thing I'm curious about is when and maybe this is going a little bit backwards in the story, but when you started to realize that you wanted to maybe go start, your own thing, make an impact in another, in a different way than the family business or some of the other businesses. Were there other kind of things that you had explored first? How quickly did you come up with kind of the idea that became bQuest, and were there changes? Because one thing I find that a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who are especially around other entrepreneurs, whether it's a family business or people who are creating businesses or startups, is that it's kind of hard to turn off the part of your brain that's like always seeing potential ideas. A lot of times they're not good, but you can't help but like think about them and go through all the iterations of, oh, maybe there's a business there, maybe there's a business there. Did you have that, or did bQuest kind of come to you pretty quickly as what you wanted to focus on?
Well, it's always a winding road, like you say. From the point where you're starting to think about things, even today, it's still a winding road, which is a good thing. I actually started out talking to professional service providers that are now part of our network, not thinking this is going to be bQuest. I was actually helping my husband, who has an estate sales type of business that he does. And he was thinking, based upon a personal experience he had with his grandma, that, gosh, I think we can do more for families, specifically after a loss of a loved one. Because really, they were kind of more working with families before a loss of a loved one, kind of more as the downsizing type of thing. And I said, I've got some time. I'd be happy to go out and just talk to people and gather information, try to figure out if this opportunity is a good opportunity, or if perhaps the market's been saturated. And so he said, yeah, that'd be great. So I actually started working on this concept to help him. And then as I started learning and I was having all these conversations with lots of different types of service providers, it struck me that, man, all of these professionals are incredible at their jobs. Families probably need to work with all of them at some stage of this journey, yet I didn't even know many of them existed. And how would I even know how to find them? I wouldn't know what questions to ask to properly vet them, to know that, I can bring them into, say, my mom's home. And so there was a point where, I was helping my husband, and I, started asking him questions, and he's like, you're thinking of something bigger than what you're doing for me. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, so did I just lose my employee that I wasn't paying? And I'm like, yeah, basically, like, I'm going to go start my own thing. So it kind of, a big theme for us throughout the past 3 years is having lots of conversations and just being curious, asking a lot of questions, and then taking the information and then distilling it down to say, okay, how can we make micro pivots so that we are really creating value for all of our stakeholders? And when we think about our stakeholders, we really have three. We have our families that the family caregivers that are really navigating these experiences, looking for support. We have our professional service providers, which we have over 25 different categories. And then we have our financial advisors that we're partnering with to bring value to their clients, which are the family caregivers. So it's definitely something where we really needed to understand what are the pain points for three very specific audiences, and then to keep questioning, are we bringing value to these stakeholders?
Yeah. So from basically day one, when your husband's like, "Oh no, I'm kind of losing my free employee,"
Yeah.
to you like really starting to like kick around the ideas of what this could be. Did you know at the time that it would be like a little bit more of a consumer play, or from day one, did you kind of know that it would be something that you'd build for, either providers or financial advisors?
No, I would tell you that we've always been really clear with how we're going to help family caregivers.
Hmm.
Because again, Kelly and I are family caregivers, right? We've had our own personal experiences, which I'm happy to speak about. And so we knew that the problem for family caregivers is navigating this really fragmented market of support. And so we're clear on how we're going to build that ecosystem, how we're going to consolidate and aggregate these professionals, and then deliver them to family caregivers through the means of technology, through our digital
Hmm.
platform. So that was always real clear, but I wouldn't say that we were always clear on the go-to-market strategy. And some could say, well, you shouldn't start a business until you're clear on that. But I would also say, well, you have to start somewhere. And then that's the point of having lots of conversations, being curious, and then pivoting based upon what you're learning. And for somebody that doesn't do that, I think that is a recipe for failure. And so we started out thinking, there are 53 million family caregivers in the U.S. Everyone is having a hard time with this. This is going to be easy. We'll just offer this to them. And
Hmm.
as we learned, it's a really noisy world we live in today, and to capture attention directly is really hard. And so we pivoted pretty quickly from that to where we said, okay, we believe that partnering with a channel would make more sense, but what channel is that, right? And so we looked at healthcare, we looked at employee benefits, we looked at the insurance space, which are your traditional payer channels. And it just kept, this financial services just kept tugging at us. Every conversation we had with financial advisors kept tugging at us. And we're like, this isn't traditional. Like most
Hmm.
people wouldn't say, go take a care coordination solution to wealth management. But we just kept hearing the same thing. And we said, Miss, this is a massive industry. And
Yeah.
I can't believe there's not a solution for this need, this client need. And so that's when we said, okay, we're going to put a stake in the ground, and we're going to build this for these partners.
Yeah. Yeah. And I probably should clarify, because a very important distinction that you made, which is the product is the mission is always helping,
Mm-hmm.
families and caregivers, but the go-to-market strategy of how you're talking about it, who you're talking to, how ultimately how you're reaching them, um, it makes sense that you'd explore those different avenues, and maybe landing on the one that's a little bit of a non-traditional choice. It means there's a little bit of opportunity there to kind of carve out a kind of like a unique way of working with uh, financial advisors, which you kind of landed on. Do you remember some of the like specific things that you heard, the like specific insights that sort of got you a little bit more comfortable to kind of keep pursuing that? Like what they were telling you basically?
Yeah, and again, they were telling us the same thing, that their clients are looking to them, their
Yeah.
most trusted advisor, for this level of support, and
Hmm.
yet they didn't have anything to offer them, and
Yeah.
so that's this rub, because these advisors, I joke with advisors that, like, well, you've done such a good job bringing value to your clients that now they look to you for everything, right? They come to
Yeah.
you for everything, and so now advisors are in a position where they have to figure out, how do we expand our value, our services to our clients, but do it in a way that we can still manage our business. So we got to do it efficiently. And
Hmm.
so we just kept hearing that literally clients are coming to them pretty regularly looking for support, and they really don't have anything to offer. So those were the main things that we heard. I mean, certainly we would dive deeper into, well, what types of questions are you
Hmm.
receiving? Are there any specific themes relative to what clients are going through? Cognitive decline is always a big one that we hear about.
Yeah.
Is, advisors are on the front lines. We really look at them as that. They are seeing families, their clients, more regularly than almost any other professional,
Hmm.
even the client's doctors. And so they're able to see what is going on in their lives. They're able to see, what changes are occurring over time. And so again, that was another thing that was like, okay, they're on the front lines. They really have a unique opportunity to go deeper with their clients in their lives. And I think timing is always a really important aspect for new concepts, right? Because I say, if we tried to do this 10 years ago, I don't think
Hmm.
this industry would have been as eager to adopt a solution like this. I think a variety of things are happening. Certainly, our population is aging, right? So they're starting to hear more and more questions from their clients, whether it's the adult child who is trying to think about how can I support my aging parents, or if it's the older adult and spouse specifically. So they're starting to see more things happening. Sadly, they're starting to lose more clients, which then triggers, a transfer of wealth, whether that's to the spouse or to the next generation.
Hmm.
Advisors have long been trying to figure out, how do we authentically connect with the spouse and the next generation, and historically they've not been super successful. So there are stats out there that show that typically over 80% of the time, when the male spouse passes, and the wealth transfers to the female spouse, she is moving the assets within the year, and it's even higher than that if the wealth transfers to the next generation. They're
Yeah.
typically transferring the wealth too. So all of these secular trends and these industry trends are kind of colliding now, to where firms are really eager to figure out, how can we go deeper with our clients? How can we offer more services, yet still be able to run our business? And so it is, I think, perfect timing for something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're exactly right. Because a lot of people probably don't know until you like work with like a really good financial advisor. Or for me, I was, working professionally with a bunch of financial advisors and going to conferences and kind of being a fly on the wall and hearing how they talk about their clients, how they're trying to innovate, how they're coming up with exactly what you're talking about, coming up with different tools and resources that they can provide for their clients. And it's kind of funny. A lot of people don't realize what you said is absolutely true. Is that they like a good financial advisor might be doing a call like maybe once a quarter. Like it could be a quick call, but they ask tons of questions. They get to know their clients on a deep level. They learn about their kids, their challenges, their goals, their dreams, their everything that they might be going through today, and that continues over time in theory, as those clients are getting older. And yeah, that's probably more than a doctor, like certainly more than an insurance agent or whatever it might be. So it totally makes sense that you'd be kind of exploring all of that. Um, Question on the actual product, like the actual platform.
Mhm.
When kind of take me through like the really early days of building it and kind of mapping out what you wanted it to be and how you wanted it to work and
Mhm.
feel, for clients or for the advisors kind of providing it uh, to their clients. Um, and then also you and your co-founder, kind of how did you guys like sort of divide up the million different things you have to do in the early days of
Mhm.
launching a product like that?
Yeah, so we have really two big aspects of our product. Excuse me. Um, typical SaaS products, it's really about the technology, and that's an important aspect, and it is for us as well. But we also are building this ecosystem of professional service providers, and we're doing it in a very high quality, intentional manner. So we have the technology build, which is a significant effort, but we're also going out there and engaging with service providers across 25 different categories and taking them through a very rigorous 4-step vetting process before we even then get them set up on the platform and we build their profile pages. So those are two really big aspects of the product. When a lot of times when we think about the product, especially when it comes to technology, we think about the physical technology, the platform, but we really we don't have a lot to offer if we don't have our ecosystem of service providers. So that was a big part of starting out, and it still is today, as we need to build this ecosystem across the country and to do it as quickly but as intentionally as possible. And then it's actually the technology, the digital platform that really serves as a conduit between these professional service providers and the family caregiver, the client, that is looking for hands-on support where they live. Neither Kelly nor myself are technologists. We don't have a background in technology. So I would say that's been the most challenging aspect for us, is just really understanding how to partner, with engineers and developers and product owners, et cetera, to build the product and to iterate on it. So we've learned a lot over the past 3 years, and especially with the advent of AI, we're leaning in very heavily, figuring out how can we utilize AI to make this experience for all three stakeholders better. So that's actually a really, really fun aspect of it. I would tell you that Kelly and I have a very clear vision of what our product should be and how it should operate, and it's just harder to then translate that into actually the features and making the product work. But that's where we have our team that we lean on today. Since Kelly and I are really involved with connecting with our financial advisors, our service providers, and certainly our family caregivers, like I said, we feel really clear on the vision and where we want to take it. As far as how we split up all the work, we actually have an incredible team today that we're able to lean on, because there's a lot to do between the sales and marketing side, between the product build, and between building our ecosystem. So we have that team that we lean on and we collaborate with. We still do a little bit of everything. I kind of jump into everything Kelly does too, but really specifically, we've said, okay, Lauren, I'm taking on the wealth management space. So I have the fun job of going to conferences and talking to advisors every day, and they're really wonderful people. They really are genuinely wonderful people that care about their clients. And so I am working on developing those partnerships. Kelly is really running point on building our ecosystem of professional service providers, and we're working with our team to do that. And then Kelly and I are involved in the product relative to communicating what the vision is based upon what we're hearing from our advisors, i.e., it'd be really great if we had, a place where we could go ask questions and get real-time answers, or from service providers of, man, it'd be nice if we could schedule virtual consultations with clients directly on the platform. Things like this, we're hearing those things and we're listening, and then we're taking it back to our product team to iterate on those insights.
Yeah. And kind of focusing in on the ecosystem part, and like you said, in the early days, doing all the vetting and finding the right partners to be part of that ecosystem. I have to imagine that there were a lot of challenges in the very early days of, like, how do you get that going? How do you do the vetting? How do you just get the interest of some of the partners to be part of the ecosystem? What were those challenges that you guys had? And I guess ultimately, what do you think helped you overcome them?
I would tell you generating interest, whether it's with our service providers or even with our advisors, hasn't been the challenge. It's been taking this very intensive process that in the early days and still a little bit today is very manual, right? So when we started out, it was literally having one-on-one conversations with each service provider, and we still do that today because we think that's an important aspect of this vetting process. So it's taking them through the application process. We do background checks. Then we build out their profile pages. So all of these steps, there are a lot of steps from the point we get referred to a service provider all the way till we then get them onboarded onto the platform. And then beyond that, we're continuing to bring value and engage with them. There's a lot there. So what we've done is we've really identified the various aspects of the process that can be improved by technology so that we can drive out efficiencies. We have some significant goals on how many service providers we need to partner with across the country in order to bring the value to these clients that they desire. And so we really have to find ways through technology to drive efficiencies out of the process while maintaining that intentionality, while maintaining that really one-on-one aspect, which we care a lot about and these service providers care a lot about as well.
Yeah. And then because you kind of have this ecosystem of the families and caregivers and sort of like the end users, and that's the mission, is to sort of help them solve all these problems. You've got all the providers, you've got, advisors. Where did you guys land on kind of the revenue model of how you wanted to set it up? Because I imagine you probably could have gone in a couple different directions with that.
Yeah, the revenue model is obviously really important. And it's always a challenge, I think, for any founder really trying to figure out how to structure it properly. We have three primary revenue streams today. Our main revenue stream is with our financial partners, so the wealth management firms. So they're paying us an annual subscription fee to have access to our comprehensive program, which certainly includes the digital platform and all the value there, but it also includes education and insights components to help advisors better understand what's going on with their clients, so that they can go deeper and they feel more comfortable leaning into those conversations. We're also providing education and insights to clients, to family caregivers, because this is a very overwhelming time that oftentimes they are thrust into. And so by providing them information and resources, it allows them to kind of get their arms around and understand what's available and what those next steps could be. So that's the primary revenue stream. We do offer a human-enabled service that we call concierge. So care concierge would be for those clients that either prefer to work with a human. They're like, I just want to connect with a human. I don't really want to get on a platform and get connected that way. Or those that want a white glove experience, or those that might be in crisis and they're like, I have 25 questions. I just want somebody to answer all of them. And so we do charge an additional fee for that, simply based on the fact that it's completely human enabled. Many times it's the client that will pay for that, but at times the financial advisor will also say, I want to cover this so that my client gets the help that they need. So that's the second revenue stream. And the third is with our service providers. It's really important that we don't have a revenue share model with our service providers. We do charge a membership fee, and they look at it as like a fee for a marketing platform. And so it's a way for them to be on the platform and to get exposure to families that are in a time of need and might need their services. It's a pretty nominal amount. Intentionally, we want them to have a little skin in the game. We really want service providers that are engaged and want to be a part of this. And we believe that, if it's just free for them to join, we might not be getting the right people that are there for the right reasons. And so it's a more nominal revenue stream, but it is our third revenue stream.
Gotcha. Um, and then kind of talk about like marketing for a minute. And I'm guessing too, like a lot of what you've talked about so far has been, growing the different parts of the business and the stuff that feeds into those revenue streams. And a lot of that, like you said, is like really one-on-one manual, just sort of like reaching out to partners, onboarding them, talking to advisors. Um, at what point, and maybe you're like in the process of it right now, because you've said you've sort of built up kind of like your marketing team. How have you sort of gone about setting goals around marketing and figuring out, okay, the different goals that you might have for the business?
Mhm.
How do you start to think about marketing for those goals and kind of prioritizing them and just working through all that? Because I know even when it's like very simple and it's like, okay, we have one product and we have one audience, like even that can sometimes get a little bit complex. And
Mhm.
especially now that with different audiences, different revenue streams, how have you guys sort of navigated that?
Yeah, so when we think about, let's just stay on the wealth management side of the business, because certainly there's marketing aspects with our service providers as well. But when we think about the financial services industry, we are really the first mover in this industry, building a product specifically for advisors, and so it's something where we need exposure, right? It's something where we're not selling another CRM or another product saying, oh, this product is just a little bit better than that one. It's a completely new concept. And so we're leaning in pretty heavily to earned media strategies. We are working with a consultant that has been in the industry for decades and really has the relationships to be able to open doors for us. And that has been just tremendously successful. And we really enjoy working with him as well. So he's been able to make introductions to various media outlets and writers. And so we've had a number of articles that have been written about us. And they're really personal articles where they are writing about their own experience. Because again, this is the universal human experience. We're
Mm-hmm.
all going through this, or we will be at some point in the future. And so it's a personal topic, and they've shared their personal story, and they've said, and by the way, there is a program, there's a solution out there that can bring value to our clients, to our families navigating this. So that's been really successful, where we've received a lot of inbound interest from firms and advisors, and some very large firms that have seen those articles and have said, oh my gosh, this is top of mind. This is something that we've been trying to find an effective and efficient solution for, and we haven't found anything. And so
Mm-hmm.
that has been a nice surprise, in that we're getting a lot of outreach directly coming to us from that. Also, this industry is very relationship driven, which I love about it. And so we've had an opportunity to speak on panels at conferences. And so, again, getting in front of people and just kind of sharing our story, sharing what we're trying to do here, the problems that we're trying to solve, has generated additional interest. And then we have kind of your traditional means. We're doing kind of email marketing outreach. Again, letting advisors in various parts of the country know that we have a solution that is built for you. And so if this is something you're hearing from your clients, or if this is something that's top of mind for you, let's connect and explore further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's very different selling to a single advisor or a small company of a handful of advisors compared to the bigger firms that can, I mean, sometimes have dozens or even like hundreds of advisors that are sort of members that would get access to resources and tools and things like that for being under the umbrella of that big firm. Um, I'm guessing maybe some of the marketing that you've done might be more focused at, okay, maybe trying to reach some of the masses
Mhm.
of those smaller firms, individual advisors, and then the bigger firms. I'm guessing might be a little bit more sales driven with marketing kind of providing support, I would imagine.
In our experience, what we found is it's a lot relationship driven, and
Yeah.
some of the bigger firms have a resource that is dedicated specifically to the client experience.
Yeah.
And so I've actually been introduced to them because this is their job, right? This is
Hmm.
their job to understand what are my clients' pain points? What are they looking to us for that we don't have solutions to? And then how do we go find those? And so that's been a nice surprise is to see them as very eager to learn. And then it's really more of, okay, how do we roll this out to our large group of advisors across the country? And so that's really more the question is based upon how they operate as an organization, and how they deliver resources to their advisors. How do we manage that rollout? So yes, we've had interest really at all sizes. We've had conversations with individual advisors that just run their book of business, and they're they have the need from their clients, all the way up to some of the largest firms in the industry today. And that a lot of people say, well, that's not an effective approach, because yes, they have different needs and they have different ways that they want to partner. But it's something that we're able to navigate today, and so we are entertaining conversations with really all sizes of firms.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense too if you're also kind of building for that end consumer, the user, the family, that caregiver that is probably ultimately what it's all being built for. A lot of the advisors, whether it's an advisor at like a huge firm or a smaller firm, oftentimes that I'm guessing the end sort of user is not going to be all that different, which is probably a good thing to kind of remember that. Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's more of the sort of go to market kind of channel strategy. I want to ask you a little bit about brand for a second,
Mhm.
because I think I work with a lot of like really early stage companies, startups, and much more established companies that spend a lot of time thinking about their brand. And I find some of the earlier stage companies might kind of not really think about it that much, or just kind of assume that brand is something that you kind of worry about later. But I think when companies start to become successful and when things start to work and start to click, a lot of that is because of the brand. And whether it's very intentional or sort of accidental,
Mhm.
you kind of figure out the all of the decisions you're making day to day, aligning with the mission and focusing on like trust and
Mhm.
credibility and authority and empathy and expertise and consistency and all these different things that you might do without realizing it sort of start to like form a brand that make those conversations easier or help you get a foot in the door, or just help make everything feel like it fits together so people get what you're building right away. So I'm a little bit all over the place here, but like when it comes to that
Mhm.
stuff, is that something you think about a lot? Is that kind of on the roadmap of the various sort of stages of growth and basically how you think about brand at those stages?
Yeah, I mean, we thought about it from the beginning. Right? As soon as we
Yeah.
established the entity, and we came up with our company name, which had a lot of intentionality behind it. It was the logo and the font and the colors, which we did change early on, because we wanted to brighten them up a little bit. We focus on both sides of death, right? All the way up, aging in place when our loved ones are still healthy and navigating that, all the way to after the death of a loved one. And so we want, when we think about that, we're intentional when we selected the colors. The People ask me about the name bQuest, and the logo is unique in that it has a lowercase b and an
Hmm.
uppercase q. Um, it's a play on two words. So bequest is something that we all know the definition. When we pass, we will leave gifts to our loved ones, to our family members, and that's a bequest, right? And so we wanted to really think about that, because providing a gift to our loved ones upon our passing is a really special opportunity. We also believe planning in advance for these types of life transitions is a gift to our family. And not enough people will plan an event in advance. Financial planners are all about planning, right? And so again, how do we equip them to better plan with their clients on some of these big life transitions? But then quest is also a word that we focus on. It's this journey, this search for something, search for information, search for guidance and support. And so as you can tell, a lot of thought went into the name of our company, went into how our logo appears so that we can play on both words. And the color scheme also had a lot of thought behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then a lot of companies I talk to also that have sort of come across, these conversations that I'm having. What I hear a lot is that, especially in FamTech, kind of hearing other companies that might be maybe at the same stage they're at, maybe a little bit farther along, whatever it may be, just kind of seeing and understanding like, oh, okay, there's some other companies that are having some of the same challenges we're having. They're, working through it now, or maybe they've already figured it out. And because I am a marketing guy, that's oftentimes I'm just really interested in the marketing side of things. What are some of the biggest kind of challenges that you guys are working through today that you just look at and say, okay, for us to get, to the next level, whatever, however you want to define that, we have to kind of figure out how to do X, Y, Z, maybe on the marketing side. What are some of the things that you guys are kind of working with today that your team is like really focused on?
Yeah, specifically on the marketing side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a little bit of early stage. You have a small team. You're doing a lot, and people are putting a lot of time. And so, just simply managing the demand that we've seen is a challenge. Yet, also not taking our foot off the pedal. Right? We want to continue, even though we have a very long list of wealth management firms that we are actively engaged with. That doesn't mean that we can stop our marketing efforts, because this industry is very large. So again, it's all about getting exposure out there. Content and education is a really big aspect of this, right? Because we are thought leaders in the industry around these topics. And so oftentimes we'll get asked to, hey, can you put on a webinar for my advisors or my clients, or can you come out and help us host an in-person event with our female clients that we do every year, and we say yes to a number of those, which you might not say is super efficient or productive. But again, we love engaging with financial partners that want to go deep with their clients, and we want to provide whatever value we can, even though it's not always as scalable as it needs to be. And so constantly thinking through, what content series or content pieces do we want to offer? And that can be both from a marketing perspective, but also from a value creation perspective. And so thinking through, okay, we want to do a really good job with this, but it's going to take a lot of effort. So who on our team is going to run with that? How much time commitment is that going to require? And then just simply, saying no to some things because there's a lot that's kind of coming at us today. And it's the same thing that we think about on the service provider side as well, is we're not proactively going after service providers. This is a really important aspect of our vetting process. I joke that we're not cold calling professionals. We're not out on Craigslist looking for, elder law attorneys. Really, we don't talk to anyone unless they've been essentially referred to us or nominated by a trusted resource. And so for that reason, it's important that we establish national partnerships with the leading associations that have certified members that fall within our 25 categories. So Aging Life Care Association is a good example. The Society for Certified Senior Advisors, National Association of Specialty and Senior Move Managers. These are associations that we have partnered with, that then we attend the conferences, We provide some marketing support too, so that those service providers know who we are, and they know that this is an opportunity for them to engage with us if they want to be able to connect with clients through the financial services industry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. I think it was actually yesterday or maybe sometime this week, I posted something on LinkedIn that is a variation of something I talk about all the time with clients, which is like this idea of like dig the well, like before you're thirsty, or plant the tree so that, later on when you need shade, like it's there, like whatever analogy you want to use. It's very relevant to marketing, or even just like growing the membership of like good members, like of the ecosystem, where it might seem like, oh my gosh, we're so busy onboarding clients, or doing sales, or like saying yes to that speaking engagement, saying yes to the webinar, creating some of the content might seem like just unnecessarily adding stuff to your plate when you're very busy and things are going kind of well. But that oftentimes is the stuff that it's like the compounding effect of like, investing, your resources and money. It's the same for content marketing, for even building up like a network or an audience of some kind, so that, later on, when you really need it to go into a much faster, scaling phase, that, then it's there. Because if you need it at the time, it's not something that can kind of happen overnight. Saying yes to some of that stuff is probably a very good idea, and kind of having a plan for how to do that while you're busy with all the other stuff as well makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and we love it. We love sharing information, because again, our mission is to help millions of families across the country, navigate these experiences easier than it is today. And part of that is just knowledge of knowing what's in front of you, knowing what resources are available. And you see these clients, these families, when they have the support, it's like this, the weight is off my shoulders, because now I have an advocate, and now I know that someone is going to guide me through this. And so content's a big piece of that. So of course we love it, but it's balancing all the needs in an early stage business that can be challenging.
Yeah. And then, we haven't talked about this a ton. We talked about it a little bit, but also a lot of the stuff you're dealing with, and the financial advisors too, with their clients, it's like really, really can be tough, like emotional stuff. And when you're doing marketing, you have to kind of be careful, whether it's content or, any of that there's like this whole other component that you have to sort of take into consideration, which other industries might maybe have a little bit of that, but certainly probably a little more of it, with some of those conversations of all the different stages that you talked about earlier. Another question for you, and the last, one or two were like really focused on marketing, but just like, I guess the answer could be marketing, or it could be anything with the business. What are you just like most excited about today, about where you're going, what you're building? You have talked about that a little bit, but anything come to mind that you're just really excited about as you kind of look forward to the next, phase, or few months, or even year of the business?
Yeah, I always like to think about the impact, because again, we're a mission-driven business, and so there are 330,000 SEC registered advisors, and they're supporting 57 million clients, and so I want every one of them to have. We'd love for them to have our resource, but a resource so that they can provide the support to their clients. Because if so, then that achieves our mission, right? Of helping 57 million families out there. So I'm just so thrilled with the opportunity to partner with the wealth management industry, because they have these deep relationships with their clients, with these families. I'm just overwhelmed by the outreach and the desire that they have shown to really go deeper with their clients, and their desire to partner with an organization like bQuest that can help them go deeper. So I'm just thrilled with the response from the industry, and I just am so happy that I get to do this. I get to connect with people on really all sides. On the service provider side, they're incredible professionals. On the advisor side, such a great resource for their clients. And then with families, I mean, truly, they are living these experiences that Kelly and I and our team are living as well. So the potential impact is what really excites me. But yeah, we've got a lot to do. We've got a lot on our plates. I'm excited to continue growing our team. We're in the middle of a capital raise right now. As you may know, early stage, you've got a lot of expenses as revenues is starting to generate faster and faster. And so there's always this point where you need that capital to support it until you can get to that profitability point. And so we're engaging with some really great potential capital partners, investors. So that's encouraging as well. So there's lots of excitement all around.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like there obviously is a massive need for what you guys are building, and a market that sounds like also lots of opportunity there. Not just the number, but just the opportunity of like reaching them. So I guess based on all that, what kind of advice would you give to other companies? Maybe not directly in your category, but maybe a mission-driven company that are building something, and they're maybe a little bit early stage, they're scrappy. What kind of advice would you give to them to sort of keep going? You can be as specific or generic as you want.
Yeah, I think for us, it's just you can't have enough conversations, right? Is just be curious and talk to as many people that are willing to talk to you, and ask a lot of deep questions to understand truly, what are your pain points? Not just to identify, is this something that I can address, but how best can I address it? And then I'd say keep it simple. When we think about how we've built this program for financial advisors, we focused on those conversations and those two very specific things that they told us. They said, I'm being asked questions I don't have answers for. So we are building solution, whether it's through education and insights or actually product features that can provide them with answers that then they can share with their clients. And then the second thing they said is, I'm being asked for connections or referrals to service providers that I don't have a network for. So we focused really hard on, let's build that network for you. Let's do all the heavy lifting of identifying the best of the best, taking them through a very rigorous vetting process. So all you have to do is go to our platform and identify, from a short list, the service providers that are best fit on geography and other factors, and then easily make those referrals. And then let's stop there, right? Let's stop there. Let's get really good at those things, keep it simple, and then continue to have conversations to learn, okay, what more? What more can we help you with? Oh, you want insights? You want to better understand what your clients are navigating so you can be more proactive with supporting them? All right, let's go build that now. So it's kind of this cycle of like curiosity, asking a lot of questions, learning a lot, focusing on that, get really good at that, and then continue to iterate.
Yeah. And that's why I love having these conversations, because it's so interesting to me that sometimes, like, as I'm hearing you talk, it sounds like you're giving really specific marketing advice, because that's what I talk about all the time of like, keep it simple, talk to as many people as possible to figure out what, how they think, how they feel, how they, whatever, all of that stuff, which is like kind of marketing. But then a founder of an early stage company, even if you have a co-founder, it can be very isolating. You can feel kind of very, very kind of alone. And sometimes just having all those conversations, or when you start to learn those things, and you might have little signals that what you're doing is working, or ideas to go do something else. And that, to me, it feels like that's the spark that sometimes can just keep you going. Let alone also like the great stuff you're actually learning and implementing too.
Yeah, it's true. And I will say, I'll kind of underscore what you said with the founder. People would always say, as we started out startup life is hard. It's really, really hard. And so, take the time, make sure you're sleeping, all this stuff. And I was like, come on, this is a little overkill. It's really hard. It's really hard. Just because, I use the analogy, it's like you're running through a maze as fast as you can. You're sprinting through this maze, and then you keep hitting dead ends and you fall down, and you have to pick yourself up really quickly and start sprinting in a different direction. And you just constantly do that where you're hitting these walls. So it's really, really hard. I don't think I would have made it this far without having a co-founder. Kelly and I certainly worked together early on, but I had no idea how important this decision was. And I couldn't have made a better decision in asking Kelly to join me. And she's just been the most incredible partner. And there are days where I'm like, Kelly, like, man, this, it's been tough. And she'll like pick me up. And there are times where she's like, oh my goodness, like this day has been nonstop, and I'll pick her up. And so for founders out there, if you're on your own, it's extremely hard. I recognize that. Having a co-founder is really helpful. And then there are also kind of accelerator type programs where you can have, resources and support at various, whether it's the technology support or the marketing support or whatever, that you do provide a little bit of equity to, almost as if they are a co-founder. And those can be really valuable too. So what you said is spot on. And I think having that support is really important.
Yeah. And the more of these conversations I have with people in, I guess, FamTech specifically, the mission-driven aspect to it all is, at least to me, from the outside a little bit, it feels like that has to be a huge help too, that and there's nothing wrong with like a startup where you're selling like widgets and you're making a bunch of money and, solving a problem and growing a business and et cetera, et cetera. But like really being mission driven and having that be the center, I'm sure too, is just like another layer to all this that probably helps too, as you're growing, especially.
Yeah, that was something that I learned early on as well, or people would tell me. And I can emphatically say, if you're looking to make money, it's easier to do that elsewhere, right? Starting something from scratch and growing it from zero to something is extremely hard. And if it's just to make money, or to have a big exit based upon what we see in Silicon Valley and all that, it's not worth it. So there really has to be a mission behind what you're doing to drive you when it gets hard, because the potential to make money or make a lot of money it isn't enough.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. All great advice. And I'm sure we probably could keep talking for another hour and come up with more stuff that you have learned along the way. But I do want to let you go. And it's at least here in Chicago, it's a beautiful Friday right now. Hopefully it's very nice in Denver where you're at. But before I let you go, anything you want to sort of end with in terms of just like letting people know how to get in touch with you, or how to, recommend a partner or an advisor, or I'm sure a lot of that information obviously is on your website, but anything you want to like kind of leave us with to let people know how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'd love to have more conversations with, financial advisors, or if you're a family caregiver and you're working with a financial advisor, would love to connect with the advisor you're working with. So you can easily find me on LinkedIn. It's Lauren Tracy Clough. Tracy is my maiden name. Or directly at my email, it's Lauren at the bQuest, and it's BQUEST.com. So would love to connect. Also, as I mentioned, we're looking for mission-driven investors, capital partners, and so if there's anyone out there that wants to see us succeed and wants to be a part of this journey, please reach out to me. I'd love to have those conversations as well. But Dan, this has been a lot of fun. It's really fun that you're another Redbird, and again, I don't come across many alumni of Illinois State as well. So this has been a really fun conversation, and appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you as well. And again, really, really appreciate the time sitting down and kind of digging into your story and, sort of uncovering all this great stuff along the way that I genuinely hope like other kind of FamTech founders can listen and sort of, it can help them, on their journey. So really appreciate the time, and let's definitely stay in touch.
Sounds good. Enjoy the weekend.
All right. Thanks, Lauren. Bye-bye.